Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being part of this inaugural, what we call a happy hour for good. And I'm very excited about this. We have had the happy hour for good concept live here in Portland, Oregon for the last 2 years. And we wanted to extend this because so many of our benefit corporations for good community leaders have not had the opportunity to participate in those, obviously. So this is going to be an ongoing effort, and we've got a great speaker. And I think most of you all know about our community, but I'm going to do a quick, like 2 minutes here, or not even 2 minutes, a minute or so. So we are a organization that is focused on three things. There are three pillars to our whole community, and that is education, it is advocacy, and it's certification. And at this point, we are over 100 companies that we've certified to date. They're in 13 states and one Canadian province. And as I said, the majority of you know about it, but I wanted to just tell you a little bit about that whole concept and why I'm here and why we've got Randy. And Randy happens to be one of our certified benefit corporation for good leaders, and she is our first business in the state of Pennsylvania and in Philadelphia. So I'm going to just give you a quick introduction here about her, and she's got a very exciting presentation, and you can obviously see 10 tips to manifest a marketing mindset. And she brings just a ton of experience to clients. And since 2007, she's helped hundreds of solopreneurs and small business owners around the nation in industries as diverse as aviation to yoga grow by using proven, affordable marketing solutions. She's a two-time nonprofit board member, lover of the arts and all things creative. After a successful corporate career, she wrote the book Proven Techniques to Profitably Market Your Small Business, a book for solopreneurs and small business owners. And then she started a career at that time in higher education, becoming an award-winning marketing and communications professor. And I'm very excited about having her present this first virtual happy hour for good. And I'm going to turn it over to you now, Randy.
Thank you, Tom. I'm really excited to be here. And I just want to say that even though this is called Happy Hour for Good, you can be happy at any time of the day, right?
True, yes.
Okay, so I'm really excited to be here and talk about a subject I'm incredibly passionate about, which is supporting solopreneurs and small businesses. So to dig right in, I just want to say that the good news is that there are more marketing choices than ever for small businesses. But the bad news is that there are more marketing choices for small businesses than ever. And it can be overwhelming. And most solopreneurs and small business owners that I have dealt with over the last 17 years have been, come out of corporate, where they had the support of a marketing either department or agency, but that wasn't their jam. Their jam was finance or something else, operations, but not marketing. So this is, in my personal life, I try to support small businesses as much as I can. I'm very lucky now to live in Philadelphia, right downtown, where there are literally hundreds of small businesses right outside my front door. And so I am, really jazzed being here in Philly, especially to say that marketing is an investment and not an expense. So, we hire lawyers, we buy QuickBooks, we do all these other things, but without marketing, there's really no revenue to pay anyone else, right? I mean, really, it's the only business function that brings revenue in the door. And spending too much time and money on the wrong thing is definitely a surefire disaster. And I can't tell you how many times I have been told that, gee, I know I should have done this, but I'm at a budget now, and I've wasted 6 months or more. So that's why I'm excited today to share with you the 10 tips to manifest a marketing mindset. And I hope that this will, encourage you, maybe step out of your comfort zone a little bit with marketing and perhaps make it second nature and maybe even make it fun, right? Marketing can be fun. So, number one, prioritize marketing. I've seen so many clients who don't have a plan in place. It's an afterthought. They don't, they scramble at the last minute. Marketing lags behind everything else. They're taking care of their restaurant or their store or their clients or, their taxes, but they're not focusing on marketing. And I can understand why. If myself, right, if I don't know how to do something, I tend to put it off. And so for those of you who are unsure how to start, I hope that this helps you frame it, right? Because Buddha is saying what has long been neglected cannot be restored immediately. I mean, marketing is awesome and wonderful and creative and fun, and it works when it's done correctly and consistently, but it is not magic fairy dust. It is not going to turn your business around overnight. And so patience is another thing, right? So a retail client of mine used to scramble every year. He was a third generation. The business had been around for 50 years. And every year in October, he would freak out. Oh my God, the holidays. Okay. The holidays don't change. They're the same every year. Okay. So, he should have been prioritizing, right? I mean, really, holiday marketing and planning and strategy. I mean, I come out of corporate myself. All that strategy really starts happening in August and September. So it is, again, you can't leave it to the last minute. And then I had a construction client who spent 18 months on a very big project. And when it was completed, he had no pipeline, and I just want to say, as an aside, if what you do is visual, if you are in construction or the arts or anything like that, make sure that you take, before and after pictures and use it on your social, use it on your website. It's really important. And for nonprofits as well, this is really important because you need to make your case for prospective donors so they can see how their donations are being used. And that's something that I learned on the boards that I was on, is to make sure that you always have a lot of images and visuals so people can see how their money is being used. And if you sell a product, again, lots of photos, how it's being used, and there's all sorts of tricks about that. But before and after, also, if you're ever at a, like if you do an expo, a trade show, you take part in a conference, you have a speaking engagement, maybe hand somebody your phone, to take pictures or video. I was at this big event last night, this awards event locally here in Philly, and there were, they had professional photographers, but there were also friends and family of the people who won that were taking pictures. So, think about that. Hand someone your phone when you're doing something like that. And then the second one is to work on your business and not just in it. So setting aside time each day just to jot down notes or any ideas, put to-dos in your calendar. And if like me, sometimes I get my best ideas when I'm washing the dishes. I don't know why, but I do. And then, you can easily forget what you're like, didn't I just think of something creative and I forgot what it is? So, jot these things down, right? And part of this mindset too is precautions and taking precautions. For example, do you have your documents backed up? Is your website backed up? That's a big one. And if you use WordPress, when is the last time you logged in to make sure that all the updates were being, all the Cindy smiling. I had a client not too long ago. I was doing some writing, uploading some writing and things to the back end of her website. When I logged in, there were more than 30 updates that had to be done. And that can crash your website. So again, I'm talking about a marketing calendar in a little while, but put on your own calendar once a month. Just go into the back end of your WordPress website, or have someone else do it for you if that's not your thing. Also, I don't know if you know this, but you can download your contact list on LinkedIn, and it will download as an Excel spreadsheet. So it is, these kinds of precautions, right, will keep you in business. And if you, if you run a nonprofit, then donate money for you. You should donate money, like even $1, just to see how the whole thing works, right? Which leads me, also check the footer of your website. What year is the copyright? Okay, I've worked with clients who say that, they're investing money in this, and this, and then you look at their public face, and the copyright date at the bottom of their website is, 5 years ago, So anything that's public facing is especially important, and to be able to keep it up to date. The third is to create and use a marketing calendar. So think of this as a strategic planning document. You can schedule your social media posts if you write a newsletter, or I just recently moved to have like an RSS blog feed. You can plan out your topics. You can look at things, out in the future, and you could see what's coming around the corner. For example, the holidays; those don't change. If you own a jewelry store, you might want to have Valentine's Day. You might want to start planning that, November, December, right, ahead of time. So, you can use any kind of calendar you want. You can use paper, you can use, Google Calendar, whatever makes sense for you, maybe both as a backup, but just, whatever makes sense for your business. And also to just reduce stress. Like everything about my life is how can I reduce my stress level? So any tools that are helpful in planning, certainly, right, makes sense for you to do that. Also, no seasonality. I was working with a divorce attorney some years ago, and based on some research that I did, I found out that January is the high season for initiating divorce, which kind of makes sense, right? New year, you want a new life, you're unhappy, whatever. If you're in real estate, March is National Open House Month, so you want to know these things, right? So that you can schedule them. There is something called National Day Calendar, which has 12-month list of, like February is Heart Association Month, that kind of thing. October is Breast Cancer Month. We're in now, so there's also a lot of fun little holidays. So if you're a hairdresser, I think it's sometime in June is National Blonde Day. I also had I know, right? So you might want to run a special if you have a hair salon, okay, right? Save 10% on National Blonde Day or week, whatever you want, however you want to do that. But the thing is to be able to plan. Also, I had a client who was a CPA and had his own accounting firm. And, you can create your own holiday. He created his own holiday, April 16th. So the day after tax day. And he named it National Bean Counters Day. And so every National Bean Counters Day, the idea was that all accountants should just stay home and do absolutely nothing because they're exhausted from the season, right? So you can, anyway, all these are listed on National Day calendar. So you can have a look at those for yourself. And you'll see here, I said categorize by quarter, month, week, and day. I didn't start with year because it's too overwhelming to sit down in front of 12 months for most people. And, you stare at a blank page and, you hyperventilate. So just start with quarter. What's coming up in the next 3 months, right? Or this month. Maybe make sure that you celebrate your own business's opening day annually as your anniversary. your birthday. You can have specials, depending upon what kind of business you're in. It might make sense to, celebrate, especially on social and using hashtags on Instagram. By the way, LinkedIn, no more hashtags. They X'd it. I don't know why, but they don't use it anymore. But if you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook, certainly, or any other platform, then you can use hashtags and be part of the conversation for whatever holiday that makes sense for you. And then the next, I think, not enough small business owners do, and that is to become your own customer. So I think the best way to avoid public humiliation is to do this. Google your business, what comes up, or not. Does anything come up? Okay. Google your name. Okay. What comes up about you? You should test every single link that you can. I have a client that created a Kickstarter campaign last year, and she promoted the heck out of it, and the link didn't work. Something happened with the link. Who knows? So I shared it, and I made a big deal out of it for her, supporting her in the campaign. And oops, okay. So she lost a huge opportunity there. It was very embarrassing. I had another client who his business was very time sensitive. He was in aviation and was an expert at reading black boxes. So private pilots, whenever they land, after a certain period of time, they have to do what's called a readout. And this is federal law. I mean, this is, you can't mess around with this. And he got a call from a previous client who's a pilot, and said, hey, when can I get on your schedule to do my download? And he said, well, I don't know. He had no idea. He had 100 or more requests sitting in his inbox because the form on his website somehow stopped working. Probably because he didn't do updates on the back end. I'm just saying, but so he lost business and perhaps reputation as well. He's not the only one who does this, and it's regional. So that was kind of embarrassing. And when I was in corporate, I spent many years in corporate in direct response marketing. I used to, when time allowed, I would have the printer mail to my home the direct mail package that was going to go out by the millions, in a couple of weeks. There is something very different about writing and then reading or creating and using, right? So you have to change your perspective. And I would open the envelope. I would be surprised when it was in my mailbox at home. And like everybody else in the world, I stand over the trash can opening my mail. Is it something that I would keep and read? And I would often make changes based on my perspective as a customer. It is, I really encourage you, if you sell product, place an order yourself. See what the bounce backs are. Do you say thank you? Did you receive all the links? Did it go to your spam? That means it's going to your customer's spam box. Mail yourself a package if you sell product. Fill out all the forms on your website. Call your own phone. Book a Calendly meeting for yourself. Sign up for your own newsletter. Because again, reading and writing are two very different. One is left brain, one is right brain. So you want to make sure that you are putting yourself in the place of your customer. And I think you'll all get a kick out of this. I just found this yesterday. This was awesome, right? So here's marketing's perspective. And then, the customer is the infant in the crib looking up at, stuffed animal butts. This says it all, right? I had to add this. I found this yesterday. It was awesome. So think about, and if and I realize I'm saying a lot of things that should be done. You don't have to do them all every day, right? Maybe once a month. Maybe you have someone, a friend, a family, if you have staff, if you have an intern, have them do it. Give this as an assignment to them. Have, you know, your friends or family support you, but it's tough being a solopreneur. You're everything, right? Chief cook and bottle washer. I realize these things can fall through the cracks. So ask for help. I'll do it for you. Happy to do it. I've done this for clients for a very long time. And I often can detect things that others won't see, because you know, they're just, their mindset is different, right? They don't have a marketing mindset. They have like more of a business or seller's mindset. Next is gather contact information. So, you know, I've also been the owner of a retail store years ago in California. You know, we had sign up at the front desk. You know, there wasn't really email back then, but, you know, it was a mail list, like postcards and things like that. Stop, you know, you don't have to chase people around the neighborhood or the internet if you tether them to you, right? So keep them tethered to you in whatever way makes sense. If you do a newsletter, even if it's quarterly, doesn't have to be monthly. And for some business, if you're a restaurant, maybe weekly makes sense. But, you know, for most others, monthly is often enough. It's time consuming. And so you can keep them tethered to you. So I just want to say I recently started using MailPoet, and it's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And it's free. Okay, so even better, right, for solopreneurs. So if you have a retail store, you can have an email sign up at the cash register. If you have a restaurant or a cafe or a coffee shop or anything like that, when you hand someone their check, you know, you can have a little form. You just make copies on your printer. It's not, right? It's not even expensive. And then enter people's emails into your database. And if you do expos or trade shows, or if you're, you know, an artist and you do artist shows, or you're a nonprofit and you have events, you know, get people's email addresses. What I used to do, I used to have a lot of, do a lot of speaking engagements, and I would have a sign-up sheet. And I would ask people at the end, you know, please, right, sign up for my email newsletter. And then I would save them. My lawyer, you got to save them because people have to legally opt in, right? You can't just put someone's name on an email newsletter list, right? You can get in a lot of trouble for that. So I would just keep them in a file folder, right? And if somebody reported spam, I could prove that they signed up, right? And you can always unsubscribe, so it's not that big of a deal. Next is keeping a sample file. So what do you respond to? You know, it can be digital, right? You get an email that you respond to, and you just have a folder in your Outlook called sample file, or literally, you know, a file folder, and you drop hard copies of things in. So it acts as inspiration. I know it helps me quite a bit. You can't copy, right? But you can emulate. So, you know, what calls to action do you respond to? And it's so much less stressful than staring at a blank page, whether you're doing a promotion for yourself or for a client. And when I need inspiration, I look at those things. And it always, you know, does the trick to get my creative juices flowing. And then understanding basic SEO. So unless you're, you know, I mean, I'm not a technical SEO expert. I understand enough of the basic to be able to know what words people would be using and phrases to search for. There's long tail, there's short tail, there's a zillion ways to slice and dice SEO. It can get really, really technical, but if you just understand the basics. So I'm going to stick with, I don't know, jewelry store. So jewelry store near me, or local jewelry store, or, you know, jewelry store in Philadelphia, for example. So if you know those phrases, then you can write a blog post, let's say, write your homepage that way, your services page. And you can then, you need to be there, right? Like overwhelming majority, I think the last figure I looked at was 93% of people start their search online before going to a retail store. So do you show up, right? And the higher that you, or I'll say the more frequently that you can increase and rise to search appearance, then you can decrease your spending on advertising because you will have organic reach, in other words. And there are places where basic SEO can help you, which is like an FAQ page. A lot of people create FAQ pages just to work in SEO, but it still needs to make sense. You can't ask and answer your own questions that are so self-serving. I mean, it still needs to make sense, again, from a user perspective, right? So if you have FAQs currently on your website, have someone look at them, right? Are they answering questions? Are there other questions that can be asked that would help you increase your SEO and help increase, your user experience, make it better? Next is content. So, we live in a social media world. Whether or not you are on social, if you write articles, if you want to be considered an expert in your field, if you want to be a thought leader, if you want to get published, you don't have to write a book like I did, but you can write articles. I think every professional should be on LinkedIn, certainly. But if you're a small business owner and you have a cafe, you're probably not on LinkedIn. So then you choose what's right for you. But even in a newsletter, if you write a long form article, then you can edit it down and you can use it for social. And pieces that help you position yourself as an expert. I tend to work mostly with service providers and with retail, just because that's my background. But if you work a lot with e-commerce sites, then absolutely, right? You always want to have content that you can put out there online. And then you can edit down. If you don't like to write, and a lot of people don't, or don't have time, again, feel free, call me. I do that a lot for clients. I love to write. I write a lot. I put up 2 blog posts in the last couple of days just in anticipation of this. I've written a book. I do a lot of writing for clients. I do a lot of SEO writing for websites and things like that. So there are, you don't have to do it yourself. You can hire someone else. And then keeping a marketing binder. Okay, I promise you, if you keep a marketing binder, you will save your sanity. There is no question. Okay, I put up an article today on my blog about this. It's very long, and I go into a lot of detail about how to do this. But your marketing information should be prioritized in the same way your bank account information is. Okay, because this can really make or break you. And this is a place, and certainly, yes, you can do it, online. You don't actually need a real binder, but maybe both, right, as backup. It's where you'll organize all of your logins, your passwords, what are the hex color numbers for your font, for your website. It's where you can house your presentations. It's where, if you've ever taken out ads, whether it's digital or, not, it's a place to keep copies of the ads, and then you can track how well they worked. So I go into a lot of detail about sections and exactly how to do this. If you want to check out my blog on my website, that went up today. And this kind of thing is especially helpful if you have interns, if you have staff, especially if they're part-time, because the turnover is really high. If you have a virtual assistant, I promise you, this will save your sanity. I mean, I've had clients whose Google listing is so old that it's harming them rather than helping them. And they couldn't log in because an intern or a part-timer from 7 years ago who worked for them set up the Google business account and they can't even log in. You know, it's you own it. Just like people say, you sign the checks. Okay, it's your business. This is vital information for you to always be able to access. So no matter how you decide to keep it, just keep it in some way. And I also want to say, don't ever let anyone set up these accounts for you. Okay, you set them up. Okay, so it's your email, your password, and then if you do have temporary staff or turnover, which of course happens everywhere, then make sure to always, again, put it right, work on your business and change those passwords when people leave. I have seen more disasters than you could ever imagine. One was a particularly bad situation. Someone got fired and really messed with this person's website because they had all the login. It was really a disaster. Um, so, um, and just make sure that, again, you Google and then you'll see, is it up to date or not? Something else I want to say about this is if you work from home, as most of us do, or even if you work virtually and you go to different, sites every once in a while, you're at a coffee shop today, you're at, a local Capital One bank. They do that here in Philly. There's a big co-working space there. Look at the ad. Don't ever put your home address on these things, ever, 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 never. Okay, especially I had a client years ago who she was an accountant, had a baby, and decided to start her own bookkeeping business and didn't go back to her big accounting, job in Manhattan. She had a brand new baby at home, and I'm helping her with some other things. And of course, first thing I do is Google somebody's business. I want to see, right, what comes up. And it was the front of her house. It was her home address. And she was home all day long with an infant alone. I'm like, no. Okay. That was one thing. And then the other thing is the website, just the web designer who did her site for her, it came with, it was a template, right? So it came with one of those maps that, you plug in your address and it brings up a map where you are. I take that function out of your website if you are home alone all day with a baby. It's not necessarily. People don't need to know. Okay. So, anyway, so if you are at a point now where you're thinking, uh-oh, I don't know my login, I don't know this. There are ways where you can contact Google, but the thing is, it takes weeks for them to get back to you. They have to mail you a postcard. It's not immediate. You might have to wait weeks to get a confirmation postcard with a code. Then you have to log back in. So if you're thinking, oh boy, I need to do this, start the process earlier than you would think, because it takes time, right? Google takes this stuff pretty seriously. And also, if you are listed on any other directory listing like Yelp, for example, or any other, right? Same thing. And lastly, not everybody has employees, but if you do, customer facing employees or staff or third party VA or a phone, third party phone system, whoever you use, anyone who is, customer facing that will deal with your prospects or your clients, train the daylights out of them so that they best represent you. Okay. Because these interactions really can make or break a relationship. I mean, you see an ad, you go to the store and, somebody, it barely looks up from, their phone or whatever they're doing. They ignore you. You're going to walk out. Okay. No, that's not how you treat. How do they answer your phone? How do they send information out? If it's an email, give them their own email address. Okay. And give them, the little blurb at the bottom so that they can very best represent you. I mean, again, I've owned a retail store, so I know this. So bottom line is businesses, with happy, courteous, and well-trained employees are going to have very happy customers. You don't have to be in retail, right, to do this. I mean, you could be working from home and have a VA kind of thing. So make sure that you do that. And then So here's a bonus tip for everybody. I'm not going to go into the detail here, but Tom is going to send a thank you, and it's an attachment. So I created something along with Cindy, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but it's a Google suite of products. So it's a listing, it's a document with a listing of, I culled it down a little bit, it's just one page, of all the great things that you can get from Google. Even, I mean, the most important one, obviously, is your business listing, but it is so much more than SEO. I have a Google phone number. I mean, that's my public facing, is that Google phone number. So there's a lot and it's all free. Best part, right? Except for ads. That you can use, that Google can support, right? I call Google as your digital best friend. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd love to help you take any questions or comments if you have any. And please don't forget to download the chat. And if you haven't already, dropped your LinkedIn link in the chat so we can all connect, would be wonderful. And then download the chat. And I would love to stay in touch with you so you can you'll be getting this obviously, but there's a lot of ways that we can stay in touch after this. So I would love to do that. And I want to say thank you to everyone. And I really appreciate your time, and I'm open to questions or comments.
Excellent. Excellent.
I'm going to take a drink of water now.
Yeah. So who might have some questions of Randy, of this great, I mean, really some great practical, actionable marketing ideas. So I'm just going to check to see if anybody has an immediate question, because I've actually got one.
Okay.
So,
I also want to give a shout out to Cindy, because I realized I didn't do this, but Cindy and I have partnered on a project we're calling Do It Right Digital. And we are creating a website. We wrote a 40-page,
wow.
40+ page paper for new and newish solopreneurs. So if you stay in touch with me or with her, you certainly will have access to be able to download that. We're going to launch in January,
right after the new year.
Right.
And best of all, it's free. So
yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let me know when that's going, Randy. We'll add it to the for the greater good, our monthly newsletter for sure.
Wonderful.
So I've got a question, and it's on content. And what, if anything, is your opinion right now of AI? Chat GPT being a really big,
yeah, I knew that was going to come up.
Yeah, I have a feeling you might. So I thought I'd ask that question. So what are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are that two things come to mind, which is when it comes to writing, it can be very helpful. If you don't like to write or you can't spell, a lot of people have bad spelling or grammar, but you have great ideas and you're really smart and you just have trouble expressing it, then it's a wonderful tool. But again, it's a tool. It's a tool. I'm not going to lie, Cindy and I tapped into it to help us write this. It can be a creative thought starter. It can really help you when you are stuck, but it's our ideas, it's our writing, we just tapped into it for help. So
and they had also used it as an editor. Randy said it's a tool like anything else.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. And it often is, I've been reading more and more because I have a lot of artist friends who have been hurt by AI because their art has been stolen and used to train AI. But that's a different thing. But for writing, just know that whatever you put your name on should be the very best reflection of you, and you have to be comfortable with it. and it's okay. Years ago we used an abacus for math. Now we have scientific calculators. I mean, just like anything, it's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It's not going to do the work for you, but you have to make sure that you're proud putting your name on it.
Yeah. Great. Great.
And that if somebody, asks you, that you don't sit there like, because you really don't know the answer because AI wrote it for you, you know?
Yeah. Right. Right. Who else has a question?
You know what? I'll step in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
what you got?
sorry about that. Because if we're on the topic of content, I know most of it has been touched upon writing. How do you feel to best incorporate video
Mm,
in your content? Um, Social is a big avenue. What are your thoughts in terms of incorporating in your site or on various um, channels outside of, let's say, even LinkedIn, outside of even Facebook or Instagram?
sure. So video is awesome. If you're comfortable on camera, then absolutely. I think especially if you're selling yourself as a service as opposed to selling widgets, that it's good for people to get to know you. Last year, I recorded a series of 6 short, what I called marketing minute videos. And you can get to them from my website. They're on my YouTube channel. So it's a nice way for people to get to know you. I mean, as an example, this video is going to go on my YouTube channel. I'm going to link to it, from my LinkedIn. I will probably make it one of the anchor pieces on LinkedIn for a while. I don't know current stats, but it used to be that if you had video on your homepage, that it increased your search engine optimization by some very large percent, like 50 or 60%. It helps people stay on your website, certainly, if they're sitting and watching, a video. I mean, you can't put a 30-minute video on your website. First of all, it would cost a fortune in hosting to be able to have that capacity on your site. But you can put a snippet and then link somewhere else, whether it's Vimeo, YouTube, whatever that might be. And if you are selling something that needs an explanation, maybe someone signs up for a membership. This happened to me not too long ago, and the bounce back in an email was a link to video that showed exactly, how step by step, like how to use this product. So it can be very helpful. But if you're uncomfortable on camera, then I'm it's it can backfire. I'll just say that. And be careful about your background. Like, I rearranged things for today in my background. Right, make sure that what's behind you makes sense, or if you have some kind of a Zoom background or something like that. Also, sound is really important. Use a video, a microphone if you're doing video outside, because you can look great, but then nobody can hear you. So or there's interference because it's windy, and there's all kinds of things. So just make sure that you kind of have a best practices list before you do that. I mean, anybody can have a stand for their phone and do their own video, but then it's do you edit it, and do you put a call to action at the end? Is there something on like static on the video at the bottom, maybe with your website, that kind of thing. So there's I'm all for it.
Great. Great. One last question. Anybody have another closing question here?
I just had one comment.
Sure, Seamus. Yeah.
So great presentation, Randy.
you.
I think that you touched on, those 10 points, or 11 really, really lay down the foundation for where you can work in deep into each one of those subjects, right? And at Sunlight and Power, my position is marketing and IT, right?
Oh.
And I saw how in several places the two have to work hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so I'm really, you know, when you mention the marketing binder and so forth, in today's computing world, those passwords are very often the only thing that stands between you and the safety and security of your business. And I would just add that, you know, although receiving a 6-digit code or using a little authenticator app might be a little daunting at the beginning, get into the habit and do that.
Mm,
And like you said, make sure that that temp or that frontline person or whoever they are has their own email address so that you can separate that out, and always separate out your, of course, your personal life. Don't reuse those passwords, you
oh,
know,
for sure.
you know, all of those kinds of things that they tell us about. And yeah, Google just has so many tools that are just waiting for you. And we've, you know, we've learned one thing about Google is, I would say, when it comes time to spend money, really think about what you can afford over the course of the year,
Mhm.
because it's a lot easier to come in, have all of your content ready to go, right?
Right,
And come in at an affordable level and
right.
maintain that affordable level for an entire year. Don't interrupt it. Stick to the plan. And then when you get ready to go into the next year, you know, okay, if you want to try a little bit more, you can come up. But having that ability to quarter over quarter and year over year to compare,
Right.
whatever you do, try not to suspend or stall your spend with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that goes back to my earlier point of consistency. Again, marketing is not magic fairy dust. And it isn't gonna just, turn on a dime. It's a commitment like anything else. And it is important that you track, right? And you test different things in
Mhm.
Google. I mean, I've seen, I've walked into client situations where somebody was spending, I don't know, $50 a day. That's a lot of money. It's $1,500 a month, right? So spending $50 a day, but the phrase, one of the phrases that they were buying was their own business, their own personal name. That makes
Mhm.
no sense.
Yeah.
I mean, what a waste, right? So, you that depth of really technical, deep expertise, you really should not do that on your own, and you should work with someone who can do the setup and the auditing for you, because otherwise you could be wasting tons and tons and tons of money.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
had
Absolutely.
another client who was also an attorney, and she was doing, I think she was doing like $1,000 a month. She just started. She went back to law school like later in life. She was in her 40s after a divorce, starting a new business. And she said, "Well, I'm just going to go for it." And we were doing $1,000 a month on Google Ads for her. But we did it smart, and I brought in an expert, and it worked. And she, after a while didn't have to, because then organically, right, and referrals, and she built her network, and she tethered people to her, she had a newsletter, she did all of the other right things, so that then after a while you could just stop spending, because it can be a big boost in the beginning, especially if you're e-commerce. It's very
Yeah.
helpful, and
A,
I
th-
know Cindy knows a lot about that.
a thousand smart Google dollars goes a so much further distance than, you know, than even 5,000 not very smart dollars, you know,
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
Great.
thank you for
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
great, Seamus. Great points, and Randy, yours as well.